Fifth chapter, Pastoralists in the Modern World. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about the pastoralists of the modern era. We generally use the word nomads. Who are nomads? Nomads are the people who travel from one place to another place. They don't stay at fixed places. They don't fix themselves to a particular region. So this attitude of the nomads of moving from one place to another place brought a special significance for them. But very rarely they find their places in the pages of history. We in the past lessons studied about the farmers, peasants. Sometimes we even study about artisans, artists also. But very rarely we study about the pastoralists or the nomads. Why? Do they don't have any importance in the history? Are their lives not so important for us? Now, in this unit, we are going to discuss about the nomads. How did their life go on? How did the lives get impacted with the British colonial system? How is it in India? How is it in Africa? So, from the smallest level to the international level, we will now try to explore what and the conditions, what affected the nomads, what are the conditions that they faced, are they good or bad, what are the effects of the British colonialism. These all we will be focusing in this unit. Now, the pastoral nomads and their movements. We already mentioned that nomads means the people those who travel from one place to another place. Do they travel alone? No. They travel with their herds, the group of their herds of cattle or sheep or goat. They carry, their main intention is to get some food for their cattle. So in order to get the food for their cattle, they used to move from one place to another place in search of the pastures. Now we will find out how it happened in our country, in India. First of all, the movements were restricted to mountain regions. It is in Jammu and Kashmir, the Gujar Bakarwalas. The Gujar Bakarwalas of Jammu and Kashmir used to move from north to south and again backward from south to north as per the climatic changes. How did they used to move? When it was in the month of summer, they used to move upwards towards the Kashmir Valley. They used to cross the Pir Panjal range and they used to move upwards where the snow melts and the mountains are lushed with the grasses. So they used to get the feed pastures for their goat and sheep in summer in the Kashmir Valley. And when these all people, a long group or a huge group came together like this who have their own herds of goat and sheep, this group of families moving ahead towards the north is known as Kafila. Kafila is nothing but a group of people who have their own herds of cattle and sheep travel from south towards the north into the Kashmir Valley to find the pastures for their cattle. This group is known as Kafila. And in the month of April when they move to Kashmir, again when the winter sets on, so it is in the month of September, they again move downwards towards the foothills of Shivaliks where the dry pastures also provide cattle feed for them. Because in winter again the Kashmir Valley is covered with snow and mountains are filled with the snows filled completely, so there you can't find even a single grass land there. So it's very difficult for them even to move and stay there also. The climatic condition also becomes very cold. So it is better for them to move downwards and safeguard their cattle and provide some feed for that. Again in the month of summer, that is in the month of April, again they move back towards the north. This is the regular procedure what they used to follow. That's why it is rightly named them as nomadic people. This is an example in Gujar Bakarwalas of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, moving on to the other type or other group of people like Gadis of shepherds of Himachal region, Himachal Pradesh region. They also followed the same similar cycle while moving up and down basing on the climatic seasons. Like in summer, they also used to enter the Jammu region in the villages of Lahul and Spiti, where they used to have the meadows which grown in the summer season, where the snow starts to melt down. So you get the meadows ready for their herds. And moving on into the winter, they also move downwards towards the south to the low hills of Shivaliks, where they find the fog for their food, herds like in the scrub forests. Like this, it has been a common phenomena of the people in the mountain ranges, the moving across due to the climatic changes. It's not only in the northern part, it is also found in the eastern part also, where in the far of the east, the Garhwal and the Kuman tribal people also used to move towards the Babar region, which is Babar is a different types of landforms what we have in the geographic lesson. So this is somewhat fertile land. In winter they used to move downwards, and in summer they used to go upwards, that is towards the Bogayals land region. So now Babar and Bogals, the same cycle we can observe here also. In winter they are moving towards the downlands, in summer they are moving towards the highlands. This cyclical movement is not only found in these Gadi shepherds or only between the Garhwals or Kumaon, but in almost all the Himalayan region nomadic people, pastorals, that is the Bhotias, Sherpas and the Kinnarois. All these are the tribal people who move on, or the nomadic people who move on according to seasonal changes. Whenever they find that the fog or the food availability or the pastures availability for their cattle is ending up, they immediately shift their location from there to another place in searching of pastures for their cattle. This is actually very useful, because the continuous exploiting of the grass or pastures in any one particular place can result in over usage of that particular place. Because of these people moving continuously from one place to another place, this over usage is getting reduced. That's what we can observe from here. Now what happens in plain regions? Till now we have discussed about the mountain regions. That is in the Himalayas, they are moving upwards or the downwards basing on the climatic changes. So what will happen if they are in the plain lands? Let's find out. Now moving on to understand how did the nomads spend their lives when they are in plateaus, plains or the semi-arid desert regions. We have discussed how they used to move from higher elevation to the lower elevation, again from lower places to the higher places in the mountain lands. Now moving on to the other groups like Dangars. The Dangars are one of the prominent nomadic groups who stay in Maharashtra state. Their population was nearly 4,67,000 in the early 20th century. So they were huge in population. They usually used to do the works like blanket weavers, and they also were buffalo herders. So they used to weave blankets and they also were buffalo herders. Before we saw in the mountain ranges, we saw the sheep and the goat herders. Now moving on, in which region they used to stay? They used to stay in the central plateau. What is the significance of the central plateau? The central plateau is a semi-arid region, very low rainfall, and here you find the scrub thorny forest. The thorny scrub forest give the flock for the herders here, and here they used to cultivate the crop also. Very rarely we find a crop grown here. That is only the bajra crop is grown here. And as the monsoons enter here, this is a semi-arid region. So then they move towards the month of October, they move towards the west. They move towards the Konkan coast. The Konkan peasants used to welcome the herders happily. Why did they welcome them very happily? Because in the Konkan coast we have the flourishing agriculture. It is filled with agricultural tracts, and these tracts are very fertile and receive very heavy rainfall, because the strategic location of Konkan region is found in the between the Arabian Sea and the Western Ghats. So because of the presence of the Western Ghats, the winds which come from the Arabian Sea are getting blocked by the Western Ghats, and they cause rains on the Konkan coast. Because of that, these regions become very fertile and create a flourishing agricultural tracts This also makes the soil to be very fertile. So because of that, here you find the crop seasons on set, and the peasants wait for the pastorals to come here with their herders, because they were in the time of when the Kharif season is being cut. When the Kharif crop is cut, they want it to be cleared and made it ready for the Rabi season. So they give all the waste cut parts, everything for the buffaloes or the herders who come there, and after finishing that, they also used to give rice for the dangars to carry with them when they are going back towards their northern region, and they make the crop ready for the Rabi season. And as soon as the monsoon sets in, when the monsoon sets in, again they start to move back towards their northern lands. Why? Because in the monsoon regions or in the monsoon climatic conditions, it is very difficult for the herders to stay there. The animals could not survive in the wet climatic conditions, so they need dry lands so that they can graze and they can stay there. So that is the reason why they start their journey back again and move back to the Central Plateau region. Yes, this is in the mountain regions. We have discussed that the tribal or the nomadic people are moving from the upper part of the mountain towards the southern part or the down towards the foothills. Again, when the summer comes, they are moving towards the upper part. But here we are finding it, they are moving all along towards the west and all along towards the back to the north. Why? Because the entire region has a similar type of climatic condition. If you want to change, or if you want to have that new grass or green or pastures for the cattle, the entire region is dry. Obviously you don't find anything wherever you go, so you have to change completely towards another type of climatic condition, where there you find the flourishing agricultural tracts. That is the reason why these people of Dangars are moving from Maharashtra to Konkan coast, and again they are moving back from Konkan coast to their Central Plateau lands. Now, in Karnataka and in Andhra Pradesh, the Central Plateau is filled with stones and grasses. This was a home for the cattle of goat, sheep herders. They used to woven the blankets and they used to make the animals to graze during the dry seasons. When the rainy season comes in, or when the dry season comes, they used to change. When there are monsoons, they don't move from this place to another place. When they are in the summer season, they move to the coastal lands where they can find the pastures for their herders, for the animals. And when the cattle is finding its, then the rainy season steps in or the monsoon sets in to the coastal lands, then they again move back to the dry lands. Why is it necessary always to move for them back here and there? Because they have to judge whether the cattle is able to survive or not. Only the buffaloes can stay in the swampy and the wet climatic conditions, whereas the other cattle have to be moved to the dry lands. So in these dry lands, the goat, sheep, everything has to be moved up, and so the nomads or the pastoralists have to move compulsorily from the wet regions towards the dry regions. And in the dry times, they used to go to the coastal areas, because there they can find the lushy green agricultural tracts which provides flock for their cattle. Now, the Banjaras are also found in Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. These Banjaras also used to search for good pasture lands for their cattle. They used to travel for long distances to find out. In this process of their journey, they used to sell the plough and cattle to the farmers in exchange to get grain and fodder from them. So Banjaras also used to travel for very long distances. Where are these Banjaras actually coming from? They are coming from different states like Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. So the entire north and northwestern India, we have the Banjaras spread out. And moving on to Rajasthan, whenever we talk about Rajasthan, we remember a dry land. Yes, the Rajasthan where we have the location of the Thar desert. The influence of Thar desert can be seen on the lives of the nomads. We have the nomadic tribal group known as Raikas staying here. Here the climatic condition is very uncertain when it comes to rainfall, where we find very large stretches of lands with no cultivation going on, no rainfall. very uncertain, fluctuation in the crop, and harvesting doesn't happen for many years. These all are the common phenomena of the Rajasthan drylands. There we have the Raika group staying here. These Raikas also stay in their places in monsoons because there is some possibility of getting rains there, and so they can have some pasture for their cattle. So in the districts of Barmer, Jaisalmer, Jodhpur and Bikaner, they stay during the monsoons here only, and after, as soon as the monsoons finishes, they move out and find some fresh pasture land for them. They go on continuously moving, and as soon as they come to get the monsoons onset in these regions of Jodhpur, Jaisalmer and Bikaner, they again move back and return to their home places. Like this they do the journeys. There is a special group in Raikas only known as Maru, which herds the camels. The other groups herds the goats and the sheep. So what is the actual duty of the nomads? Nomads should have a very calculative techniques. Why they should know the calculative techniques? They have to judge whether the climatic condition is suitable for them or not, and they have to see whether the pasture is available, will it be sufficient or not, and they should have the time of the moment. They should judge the time of the moment. So for example, the monsoons are going to close here. When the monsoons are going to come to an end here, you need to start your journey to somewhere where it is a dry land there, and where you can find some land, and this meanwhile the journey along with you have to carry the entire herds also. So their walking is very slow when compared to our walk. So you have to consider all of them, and you have to make a perfect choice of that, so that no one gets affected with that one. And you have to maintain the relationship with the local farmers. Whenever you are coming here, they should give you the chance for you to have the fodder from the harvested crop and manure the soil. So for all these things, there is a tactic which needs to be played. And now, in order to wrap up the entire life of the nomadic pastorals, we can write it in just one line. He is nothing but combining the activities of cultivation, trade and herding in order to earn his living. In order to have his living properly, he is combining the three different activities of cultivation, then he is combining the activity of trade, then he is combining the activities of herding. First, in cultivation, he is helping the farmers to do cultivation. He is helping the farmers to harvest. After harvesting, they clear the crop. After clearing the crop, he is allowing the fodder to be eaten up, and then the manuring of the soil happens. This is for cultivation. Trade, in his journey from up to down or north to south or west to east, whenever he is traveling, he used to carry blankets, or he used to carry the plough, he used to carry the cattle, he used to sell it for the farmers in exchange of food or fodder or grains, whatever it is. So he is doing trade, and along with this commonly he is carrying his herds together, so he is doing herding. These three activities are done by the nomadic pastorals, and that's how he is earning his living. Now moving on further, after his judicious calculation of the time, movement and estimation of the pastures availability, everything, what about the colonial impact on the pastoral nomads? Did the British rule impact the pastoral nomads? Yes or no? We'll find out. The colonial rule and the pastoral life. Till now we have discussed what is a pastoral life, how it moves on and how they spend their life. Now moving on into the understanding of what happened to their life after the entry of the Britishers into India, or the colonial rules impact on the pastoral's life. Let us see here. This has a dramatic influence on them. The lives changed dramatically. Till the time they were happy wandering one place to another place. They know when they have to move, when they have to adjust. They started to make their cattle to move and get the sufficient amount of foods by making friendship with the farmers, and they used to adjust with them, and they used to maintain good relations with them. But after the Britishers entered into the life of the pastorals, the life has changed dramatically and became horrible, worried for them. Why? Because the grounds started to shrink. The movements of the pastorals are being restricted, and the amount of revenue what they have to pay earlier was far much less, but now they are forced to pay huge amounts. In the similar way, the Britishers believed that the transformation of the grazing lands into cultivatable lands is very much important for them, because these grazing lands, according to the Britishers, are wastelands. They could not collect any revenue for them. So they felt that it's a wasteland. If you cultivate these wastelands into cultivatable lands, they can produce the crops like cotton, jute, wheat. Apart from just getting revenue, they are also compensating the requirement in England where they need cotton crop, that can be compensated with the production what we are getting in these cultivatable lands. So this was the dream of the Britishers. So Britishers selected certain individuals, gave for them certain concessions, encouragements, and sometimes they announced them only as a village headmen and encouraged them to cultivate these wastelands into cultivatable lands to generate more revenue, as well as to produce the crops like cotton, jute and wheat, and supply this to the England. Here these wastelands are actually the homelands or the pasture lands for the pastoralists. This is the first major threat because of the colonial rule. Now moving on to the other important factor, that is the second important factor, is that the Forest Acts, as we all know, because of the Forest Acts which came in 1878, they divided the forest into three major categories: the protected, reserved and the other villages forests. So in the reserved forest, where the deodar and the sal has been produced or timber is produced, there the entry of the nomads or the pastorals is completely restricted. They are not supposed to enter here, and it's a strict restriction for them. And moving on to the protected areas, in the protected forests also they have only customary rights, that is under strict surveillance and supervision only they have to allow the grazing to happen, because according to them, the British officials, grazing is, the saplings will get destroyed because of grazing, and the young plants which are shooting up will be completely tampered by the movement of the cattle. So they don't want this to happen, so they severely restricted grazing at any cost, and they also gave no entry ultimately into the reserved forest, and there are limited entry into the protected forest, that also regulated strictly, and permit is given only in the time bound regions, like from this time to that time. They have to mention the entry time and the departure time. Once after the departure time, if you are staying there, you are liable for fines and punishments. So all these made the life of the pastorals becoming tough and tougher, very difficult times where they are passing through. And what happened? The other important factor is that they have made certain acts which labeled them as criminal acts. What are those? The third important one, that is, the Britishers are suspicious and they never trusted the people of mobile craftsmen or these nomadic pastorals. Why? Because the Britishers want to have a settled population. It's very easy to control them, to identify them when they are settled in a specific region. So they used to consider the people, those who are settled, as the law-abiding citizens, and they are peaceful in nature. But as we know, the conditions of the nomads do not allow the nomads to stay at a particular place. Because of the climatic changes, they need to move their cattle from one place to the other place. In this process of moving the cattle from one place to another place, they need to travel. So as per the laws of the Britishers, they cannot move. So they brought the Criminal Tribal Act of 1871, which states many of the nomadic tribes as the criminal people, and they have restricted the entry of these people out of their villages. They notified a particular village for them, and they have to stay within that village only. If they move out of that village without the permission of the police, they are liable for punishment. Like this, one after the other, the hardships of the nomads are increasing the day after day, because the Britishers started to impose more and more acts. First, the entry into the forest was restricted. Now moving out of the village is restricted. So the steps are making their life tough and tougher. Now, taxation. The Britishers did not leave anything for which they can generate revenue. Taxation was an important source of revenue for them. So, they had laid taxation on land, they have laid taxation on water, on salt, on trade, and even on animals. So, land, water, salt, we all have heard, but till mid 18th 19th centuries, we never heard in our country grazing tax. That is, grazing, when animals come and graze, they have to pay taxes. So, per head, they have to collect or pay the taxes to the Britishers. This from 1850 to 1880s, it was let out to the contractors and it was auctioned, and contractors used to take it for a very heavy charges so that they can collect as much amount they want in order to compensate that one. So, like that, they used to collect more and more amount of the taxes through them. Finally, from 19th century 1880s afterwards, we have the Britishers only directly collecting taxes from the pastorals. They used to give a pass for them. In that pass, they have to show that pass when they are taking the pastoral or the cattle along with them into the forest for grazing. Then they would count per head how many cattle are going. They would enter into the pass and then they will fix the tax for that. Like that, they started to collect taxation directly from the pastorals. So, the Britishers first restricted the entry, then made them as the restricted into the forest land, then they labeled them as criminals by nature or by birth by passing certain acts. Now, they started to lay the taxation also. So, what was the impact of the Britishers' colonial rule on the life of the people? How did the lives of the pastorals change? Now, how did the changes affect the lives of the pastorals? First, when the restrictions were laid, there was no pasture available for the cattle sufficiently. So now the movement of the pastures was limited because pastorals are not supposed to move now. Nomads are termed as criminals, and they have brought certain categories of the tribal people into criminal tribals, and they restricted the entry of the people from the village which has been nominated for them. Now moving on, there was no free, because now we have to pay everything. There is a pass, as I mentioned earlier, for grazing also you have to pay taxes. And now they are cultivating the wastelands into the cultivating lands, so the pasture lands turned into plough lands, and then grazing on the limited lands brought many adverse effects, because earlier we used to have the nomadic people taking their cattle to somewhere else, so that leaving this place, so this gives a natural time for the vegetation to get restored, and then when they return back, they used to have the sufficient amount of pasture for them, for their cattle. This movement helped that to grow naturally, but because of continuous overgrazing at the same particular place and no movement at all, because there are severe restrictions, this did not allow to the naturally restoring of the grazing, and this resulted in the severe shortage of the food for the cattle, and this severe shortage made the cattle to get underfed, malnutrition, and the cattle died. Mainly they died largely due to the times of scarcities of the fodder and famine's time. So like this, it started to show a deep impact on the lives of the people of the nomads. Coping with the changes. With the recent changes what we have discussed, the pastorals reacted in a variety of ways. Earlier we used to feel that all people used to react in a similar way, they used to protest, but here they did not react in any protests or anything. They reacted differently according to their financial economical positions. No enough pasture lands, that was a main worry cause for them. So in 1947, the camel and the sheep herding Raikas used to take their cattle to the banks of River Indus and Sindh region and make them to graze there, and they used to bring their cattle back. But after 1947, because of the new boundaries between India and Pakistan, now they are not supposed to enter into the border region. So they need to find out some other alternative. So in this process of finding some other alternative, they started to move towards Haryana region, where they migrated to Haryana, where it is at that time that fields are cut. So the fields need manure, which the animals used to provide. Like that, some of the pastorals tried to find out some new alternatives for them, while rich pastorals started to buy lands and settle and leave the pastoralism and the nomadic life and stick themselves to the settled life. While moving on to the poor, they borrowed money from the money lenders. They used to move from the nearby places to other places. Sometimes they used to lose their cattle, so they lost their cattle, so they don't have any other work. They are in loss, so they used to work in the fields or in small towns. Like there, some people left the pastoralism, some people became settled, some people became poor. While many of the number of the pastorals has increased in the recent years, but the size has been reduced of the herds continuously, and drastically it has come down. These, even today in many parts of the world where we have the arid and semi-arid regions, pastoralism is the most economically viable way of life. But except in India, various other parts, we have good turns for that. Only in India it could not get proper shape because of various other reasons. Now we will shift our attention towards what happened in any other part of the modern world. Now moving on to find out pastoralism in Africa. In Africa, more than half of the population depends on pastoralism. It is nearly 22 million population depends on pastoralism. What are the tribal people or the names of the groups who depend on pastoralism? Those are Bedouins, Berbers, Maasai, Somali, Boran and Turkana. These are the names of the different tribal groups who depend on pastoralism. Here they live in the semi-arid region where agriculture is very difficult because the rainfall is very less. Africa, we all know that it is covered with Sahara Desert on the northern region. So there the rainfall availability is really very less. Because of this also we find many of the people depending on pastoralism in Africa. So what do? They also feed similarly like the Indian people depend on cattle, that is camel, goat, sheep and donkeys. What do they do with these animals? They used to sell the milk of these animals, meat of the animals, animal skin and wool. They used to do all the other kinds of odd jobs because the income what we earn through pastoralism is very uncertain earning. It's very uncertain and the amount is really less when compared to the other kind of professions or occupations whatever you do. Now this is about a brief introduction about the African pastoralism. In India, as we have noticed the changes in the lives of the pastorals before and after the colonial period, in the similar way, there are changes in the lives of the Africans also before and after the colonialism. So what have been those changes? Let's check it. Now, in order to understand how the changes, the colonial rules, regulations, acts affected the lives of the people in Africa, we will do a case study with a particular tribe. That tribe is the Maasai tribe. The Maasai tribe people used to stay in the eastern part of Africa. These people are the cattle herders. They used to stay in southern Kenya and Tanzania. In southern Kenya, their population was nearly 3 lakhs, while in Tanzania it was up to 1.5 lakhs. So they are huge in population. The largest tribal group of Africa is Maasai, one of the major, mostly populated and most severely affected with the Britishers' colonial rule. So the northern Kenya to northern Tanzania used to be their lands of grazing. They used to have a very vast stretch of grazing pasture lands for their cattle. So that was from northern Kenya steppes to the northern Tanzania regions. But because of the entry of the imperial powers into Africa, that is the French, the British, the Germans, all these Congo, Belgium, all these countries, they started to scramble the Africa into small parts. They tore Africa into small pieces and divided them with international boundaries, which completely restricted the entry of the tribal groups from one region to another regions. For example, in 1885, the Maasai land, which was earlier from northern part of Kenya to northern part of Tanzania, was broke down into international boundary between British Kenya and German Tanganyika. So British Kenya and German Tanganyika were now split into two parts, where which actually used to be the Maasai land of pastures, where a long vast stretch of land used to be there, which got cut into different parts now. And with this move of the imperial powers, the Maasais lost 60% of their pasture lands, which is very useful for them, and now they were restricted their entry into the arid regions where the rainfall is very uncertain and very poor rainfall, very poor availability of the pastures, which made them to face difficulties. So difficulties started to step in into the lives of the Maasai tribes. Other than this, the Britishers, as usual in India, they started to encourage the cultivation, the changing of the grazing lands into cultivatable lands. They want to convert the wastelands into cultivatable agricultural tracts so that we can earn some amount of revenue, as well as we can produce some cotton crop or wheat crop, whichever is available for them, so that that can be exported to England. So we can have dual benefits from this. With this motto, the Britishers started to convert the grazing lands into cultivatable lands. Earlier, the Maasai tribe people used to be the dominated group in agriculture or in the neighboring fields, neighboring regions, or the neighboring tribal groups, like in economically or politically. But with the entry of the Britishers, with the scrambling of Africa, with the turning out pieces of Africa and having international boundaries between them, where they lost their 60% of their pasture lands, now they became the most dominated group. Earlier they used to dominate the others, now they became the dominant group, because now they are facing the Britishers' colonial rule. The grazing lands are converted into the game reserves, where most of the grazing land, the pastures lost. The pastures were lost completely. How? Like for example, Masai Mara and the Samburu National Park and Serengeti Park in Tanzania. The Serengeti Park in Tanzania was converted, which is a very large grazing land of the Maasai tribe. It is 14,760 kilometers. It is spread over the park, which was been converted here, and the entry of the tribal people into this one was completely restricted. The pastorals are not supposed to enter here, and the loss of the grazing lands started to build pressure to feed the cattle, because they used to feed the cattle by taking it over to different lands and make the pasture available for the cattle. But as the time passed on, the grazing lands are lost, no water resources available for them, and later, because of continuously having the grazing on the same particular land, it started to deteriorate the quality of the pastures what is available for them, and the poor quality of pastures started to cut up, and short supply of pastures had been an important and the persistent problem for the Maasai tribe to feed their cattle. Borders are closed, as it happened in India. In the similar way it happened with the Maasai tribe in Africa also. The restrictions on the mobility of the people. There are no free movements allowed for the pastorals like it was earlier. There was a severe restriction on the movement of them, and they have to confine themselves to the fixed reserves. They have to stay in the regions where they are allowed to stay. They are not allowed to move outside, and they have to take permission for that if they are moving outside, and it has been a very difficult and tough procedure to take permission to carry their stock with them. And whenever they finds that there is no permission given to them, so they will be given severe punishment for those who violate the rules and regulations. No entry into the white man's markets. If there is a white man market going on, the pastorals are not allowed to enter inside, or they have to maintain a restriction. They are not supposed to speak to everyone whomever they find. It is a minimized, the contact should be minimized for them, and they are prohibited on doing any kind of trade with any other people abroad. So like this, everything was brought into the clutches, and they were brought into confined role. They were completely fixed, like they have to do only these activities. But in practical reality, it is very difficult for the government to describe or to distinguish between the blacks and whites, because the whites need the black labor force to doing mining, or for laying the roads, or for construction of the towns. So now, as there is a severe restriction, no availability of the pasture lands, no movement outside, and special permits required, these all forced many of the tribal people to convert themselves into the regular working labor force. But even though there was a apartheid feeling between them, Britishers also could not stop, because practically they also need the support of the black force or the labor force of the African tribal people to lay the roads, to dig the mines, and also to construct the towns. The life of the pastorals has changed completely. Earlier they used to do trade and they used to look after their own herds traveling from one region to another region, but today they cannot do any trade and they are not able to fulfill the daily basic needs of their cattle also properly. So this brought them into severe problems and troubles. The pastures dry. Yes, due to the bad weather conditions, the pastures dry, result in droughts and famines. What was the impact of this on the nomads? Let us see here. The rains fail, that results in the pastures dry. When the pastures dry, automatically it starts to show the impact directly on the cattle. The cattle used to starve because of the lack of the pastures. So immediately the cattle has to be moved to the other nearby place where there is forage available for the cattle. Earlier, the Maasai people used to move from one place to another place as per the seasonal requirement, and they used to move to the places where the pastures are available so that the cattle do not face any kind of starvation. But with the entry of the Britishers and restrictions are being bound to them and confining them to a specific regions and not allowing them to move freely, forced the people to stay in the same region, and lack of good quality of pastures and lack of proper rains, failure of the climatic conditions or like failure of rains in time resulted in bad years. So the cattle due to starvation died. It died in very large number in Kenya in 1933-34. In just 2 years they lost 7,20,000 cattle, 8,20,000 sheep and 1,71,000 donkeys due to bad weather conditions. Because of the severe restrictions laid by the Britishers, this is the impact on the day-to-day lives of the Maasai tribe people. It reduced to more than half of its original strength of the cattle. So this has been a severe impact on the Maasai tribe because of the British colonial system. It was not equally affected. All were not equally affected with the British colonial laws. How? How is it possible? In Maasai land, even in Africa itself, we find differences where some people are happy with the Britishers while some people are not happy. How is it possible? Let us check the details now. The Maasai land, Maasai tribes are divided into two groups. One is the elders, the other is the warriors. The elders are the ruling group. They are the ruling group, they are the elite group. They used to meet periodically and discuss about the ruling policies. And the warriors are the young people whose duty is to protect the tribe. And along with this protection of the tribe, they also have the duty of raiding. They have to raid the other tribal people and they have to get the cattle into their hands. So they destroy the others and gain over the cattle. The tribe's strength is determined by these raids only. How many raids you make and how many you gather, that is improving your tribal strength. So you need to improve your tribe strength means you need to have more number of warriors. The young and strong people are taken into the warrior group for conducting raids. This was a main activity in Africa during that period. With the arrival of the Britishers into the scene, they want to administer the activities of the Maasai tribe. So they want to control the Maasai's activities. They appointed the local chiefs as the chief of the tribe and they brought restrictions on these raids and warfares. With the entry of the Britishers into the administration of the Maasai tribe, the importance of the elders as well as the young who are the warriors was completely lost. Now the entire authority gone into the hands of the chief. These chiefs used to stay in the towns and cities while their families used to stay in the villages. These people started to earn, become rich, while the tribal people, actual tribal people, started to become poor and poorer. The local chiefs appointed by the British officials has the regular income for them and their families used to stay in the villages while they used to stay in the towns. That has been proven very advantageous for them, because as they have the regular income, they are able to buy animals, goods, lands, and sometimes if anyone needs money, they used to lend money for the poor neighbors, whoever used to stay with them, and used to collect more tax from them. So whenever there is any requirement for money, they used to lend money for interest, and they started to do trade in the towns. They, even at the tough times, they are able to manage, because they have two types of incomes. One is a regular income from the British authorities, the other income from the buffaloes or the animals, the cattle what they have, the goods what they have, the land through their trade, through the interest what they are getting from outside. So they used to have the advantage to tide on the bad times also. Like this, it did not affect anything for them. It proven positive for them because of the British colonial system for the chiefs who are appointed at that time. And when it comes to the poor pastorals, they don't have any resources for them to tide during the bad or the tough times of the wars, the famines, or the droughts. So they lost their cattle. The cattle used to die due to starvation, and they don't have proper pasture lands. They don't have their own lands also, and they need to stick to some charcoal burners or some kind of odd jobs to survive for them. One happy thing even in the bad times is that they could be able to find some kind of employment for them in the road construction or construction of the towns. Some construction activity used to be going on continuously. So this broke the Maasai tribe, which was very wealthy, very prosperous, and having a long stretch or vast stretch of land under their tribal community, broke down, and today they don't have any authority. They are completely restricted, and they have a limited entry into the forest, now struggling to lead their day-to-day life. So the British colonial system broke the Maasai tribe into two different structures, or the two major impacts on the Maasai tribe. One is the traditional breakdown. Traditionally, there was a difference between the warriors and the ruling classes. The warriors and the ruling classes, age difference was there, and the importance in society was also completely destroyed. And the second important thing is, it fabricated the difference between the rich and the poor was completely developed. The rich pastorals and the poor pastorals. The poor pastorals started to work in various odd jobs, while the rich pastorals turned to be richer and richer. They are able to buy lands, buy the cattle, they are able to give money for interest and all. Like this, they broke the monopoly of Maasai tribe in Africa, where they have their traditional setup now got transformed into the bifurcation between the rich and the poor. This is the impact of the British colonial rule over the Maasai tribe people in Africa. So now in this lesson, we have learned how the pastorals used to live prior to the colonial rules. How was their life? Is it good or bad? But after the colonial rules were brought into place, it started to show deep impact on the lives of the people in India or in Africa. So their lives were completely disturbed and distracted because of the severe restrictions imposed by the British colonial system.